So things are just too easy shooting digital, aren't they? Where you've got a nice clear monitor and you can see exactly what you're doing. What you really want to do is buy a late 50s 16mm spring wound film camera and go to Wales and shoot a music video. So I thought the sensible thing to do would be to document the time that we spent in Wales using this film camera, as it's quite a unique experience for me, and probably a fairly rare one. It's a Bolex H16-M, which is a 1958 motion picture camera. Loading film into the camera is fairly straightforward. There's plenty of tutorials online, and there's even arrows within the camera to show you which way to feed the film in. So everything's pretty straightforward and foolproof, and it's testament to Bolex's design and engineering that this thing has lasted 60 odd years and still works perfectly. So a roll of film is about £70–80 if you buy Kodak Vision3 50D, which is daylight film, which is what we used. And again, it's similar to develop and scan digitally. It's about £70–80, so you're looking around £150 for 3 minutes of film. That's assuming your 3 minutes are usable and you've executed correctly, which again is one of the beauties of digital and having a monitor, and you can see exactly what you're doing. You can focus and expose and you know everything's perfect. This is more or less guesswork. Focusing and exposure is a little bit challenging, and framing as well, because with this particular model you're not looking through the lens. It doesn't have a prism. You're looking at a viewfinder to the side of the camera body, which approximates your framing, which kind of does actually work more or less. In terms of exposure, you need to get to grips with using a light meter, and for focus you just have to measure with a tape measure, which is basically, or you can eyeball it, but because you're not looking through the lens you can't see if you're in focus. And we were trying to stay light walking around South Wales in this beautiful area called the Gower Peninsula, which is a very remote area, as you can see from some of the shots. Hardly anyone around, which is the whole point of the project, but with that comes a lot of walking with a lot of bags and a lot of heavy kit, which is a bit of a downer. I've still got sand in all my tripods and everything. Still weeks later there's sand turning up here and there. I suppose one of the big benefits of an exercise like this is really helping you understand the process of framing and shot selection, which when you're shooting film at basically £150 a roll total costs, you really do concentrate on what you're trying to shoot. You can't just scattergun, run and gun everything. And I think that's a really good exercise and a really good discipline to learn. Now, I don't own this camera. The artist bought this camera because he wanted 16mm film in his project, which is great. So I got to use it basically with no strings attached. I suppose at £150 a roll for 3 minutes, you can't really mess around. It's a bit expensive for that. I'm just happy that the footage came out into something usable, because this is the first time we've ever used this camera. I was fairly confident about my exposure, my exposing and my metering, but I'm really happy it came out given the costs involved. Obviously the costs to go to Wales and stay there, and a fairly expensive project. But I think going down the road I'd be interested in owning a motion picture film camera. The Bolex are obviously the most common and the most dominant in the field, so yeah, I think in the future I'd like to own a 16mm film camera.